On a narrow path, a monk asked another man to step aside. What happened next became one of the sharpest questions ever asked in Advaita. Sometimes a single question does more than seek an answer. It makes us pause and suddenly notice what had remained unseen. One such moment is remembered in the life of Adi Shankaracharya, a teacher who spoke of non-duality, that beneath all differences, reality is one. But one morning, on a street in Varanasi, someone asked him a question that brought his own teaching into focus. It was early morning. Adi Shankara had finished bathing in the river and was walking back with his disciples. The streets were narrow, quiet, the kind of morning where sound travels gently, footsteps, distant temple bells, the movement of people beginning another day. And then, ahead of him stood a Chandala, a person who dealt with the disposal of dead bodies, a man considered untouchable in the social order of that time. He was not alone. A few dogs stood beside him, and for a moment, the path narrowed into an encounter neither of them could avoid. Adi Shankara asked him to move aside, a simple instruction, perhaps spoken without hostility, perhaps as habit. Because sometimes what society teaches us enters speech before thought has time to question it. The disciples waited. The road remained still, but the man did not move. Instead, he looked at Adi Shankara and asked something unexpected. He asked, "Whom do you ask to move? This body or this soul? If you mean the body, then what really separates one body from another? Are not all bodies nourished by the same food, shaped from the same elements? And if you mean the soul, then how can difference remain when the same consciousness shines in all beings? How can one be called a Brahmin and another a Chandala in that deeper reality where no division exists?" The question was not argumentative. It simply exposed a contradiction, a truth clearly understood in thought, yet an old habit that remained in action. Adi Shankara had taught that beneath all difference there is one indivisible reality, that the same consciousness shines through every form, that names, identities, and appearances belong to the surface. But now, that teaching stood before him, not in debate, not in scripture, but in a living human presence. If all is one, why should one person be asked to step aside for another? If purity belongs to the self, can the self ever become impure just by birth? The question did not attack, it revealed. Sometimes truth arrives quietly, not to defeat us, but to remove the distance between what we say and what we still unconsciously carry. In that instant, tradition says Adi Shankara saw something beyond social identity. Some say that Chandala was none other than Shiva, appearing in disguise. Others say the deeper point is this: wisdom had appeared from the very place society had taught him not to expect it. And Adi Shankara bowed, not to status, not to caste, but to truth, when it became undeniable. What changed in that moment was not his philosophy. The philosophy was already there. What changed was the gap between understanding something and truly living by it. That distance can remain hidden for years until one encounter reveals it. Out of this encounter came verses later known as Manisha Panchakam. In them, Adi Shankara declares, "Whoever knows the truth of the self, whether a Brahmin or an outcast, is my teacher. That is my conviction." A profound statement, because it does not merely explain non-duality, it submits to it. And perhaps this is why the story still lives, because the deepest questions are not always asked in temples or texts. Sometimes they arrive in ordinary moments and quietly ask whether our understanding has reached the way we see another human being. If all is one, where does division still survive? And what in us still hesitates to live what we already understand? Perhaps that is where every teaching must finally arrive, not only in thought, but in the way we see others. If this reflection resonated with you, you may subscribe to this channel to explore more timeless wisdom here, not as stories of the past, but as mirrors for our own lives. Om Tat Sat.